Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender, and after 2+ weeks of near daily Toronto Film Festival reviews, I have talked about 12 to 14 movies, I want to say, over the last couple of weeks. It is time for my wrap-up video. And I thought what would be fun today is to rank all 21 movies I saw at TIFF. I haven't talked about all of them, so this video gives me a chance to at least discuss briefly everything I saw throughout my week in Toronto. Now, one movie I won't be ranking here is The Substance. I know I just reviewed it, but I actually saw it here at home. I did not see that at TIFF. So that's not a part of these 21 movies. These are the films I saw when I was in Toronto. Let's start with number 21, The Return. This movie intrigued me because it's an Odyssey retelling starring Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche, and reviews out of its first couple of screenings were mixed. But based on my love of those two actors and the Odyssey, I thought I would enjoy it. Turned out I was wrong. This was the worst movie I saw at TIFF. This was a very difficult sit. Like, it's so dull. Until the very end, when we get a little bit of action, a little bit of conflict. It's a lot of just people in dark rooms, talking, scenes going on for 5+ minutes. I did not vibe with this movie at all. The guy sitting next to me slept throughout most of the movie, and I do think he was having a better time. Number 20 is On Swift Horses, which I'm sad to say doesn't work, even though it has a great cast, including Jake Belordi and Diego Calva, and it has LGBTQ characters. And so it's like, I look for films about LGBTQ characters, I try to lift them up, but this is not one of the better ones. It's kind of a slog. The story doesn't have a lot of emotion in it, and by the end, I was just shrugging. There's not much to take away from On Swift Horses, so I do think you can skip that one. Number 19 is The Piano Lesson. This is a movie that might be in contention to win Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars for Danielle Deadwyler, and it's number 19 of 21 at TIFF. Now here's the deal. I really didn't like The Return or On Swift Horses. Now everything else I'm gonna talk about in this video, even the lesser titles, there are things to admire about them. There are things I liked. Most of the films I'm going to talk about now are pretty decent, if not good, or great, or amazing. The Piano Lesson is fine. I just never really got swept up in that narrative. I thought it was tonally all over the place. It felt kind of stagey to me, as I talked about in my review. But I did admire the performances, especially Danielle Deadwyler. Like, she is really good in this whenever she's on screen. I was paying attention and enjoying the movie. And I do think if she gets into Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars, it will be well-deserved. But sorry, Samuel L. Jackson, that Best Supporting Actor nomination is not happening. Number 18 is Night Bitch, my number 1 most anticipated film of the week, and it's 18. I can't believe it. Like, I'm just like, wow, it really does place that low. I don't believe it because I'm a huge Amy Adams fan. She's very good in the movie, and for about 45 minutes, I was liking it. I just don't think the second half works very well. It needed to be more surreal, go to some more dangerous places. It felt kind of safe to me. And so I did walk away from Night Bitch very disappointed, even though there's a lot to admire about the film, including Amy Adams. She is rock solid in this movie. I just don't think the narrative around her performance is at her level. Number 17 is Queer, another very anticipated film of the festival I assumed would be in my top 5. And it's number 17. Can you believe it? But that's just how this movie shook out for me, especially the second half, which I could not get on board where this narrative went to in the last 30 to 45 minutes. I was checking out. I was like, what is this? This does not really compute with what the first hour was all about, even though the performances are fine, some really nice cinematography. Like, in a year where Luca Guadagnino also gave us Challengers, which is one of my top 5 films of 2024, I just don't think Queer is at that level. I don't think this is one of his great movies. It might get into the Oscars for Daniel Craig, maybe in screenplay, I don't know. But yeah, this one disappointed me too, sadly. Number 16 is The Cut, starring Orlando Bloom and John Turturro. This was the first film I saw, my first night at TIFF. This was my introduction to the festival, and the movie's good. Like, it was interesting. The performances are very strong, and it has a couple developments in the narrative. Like, I was sitting up like, oh crap, like that's where this is going. It has some exciting moments in the story. It's just not super memorable beyond the performances. Like, the cinematography is fine. It's an okay movie. It doesn't do anything extraordinary. I could see it being a decent watch on like streaming in the months to come. I think Orlando Bloom is better in this movie than he's been in a long while. And so, yeah, like, I give it a slight recommendation. The Cut, my first film at TIFF. Number 15 is The End, which was the last movie I watched at TIFF. I felt like it was appropriate to end my week in Toronto with a movie called The End. And I mean, it was a little bit of a letdown coming off of the 3 films I had already watched that day. Like, I had an all-timer run of 3 movies almost back to back. And then later that night, I checked out The End, which is this very bizarre movie that goes on too long at 2.5 hours. But it's like a musical, it's claustrophobic, end of the world. It's got a great cast, including Tilda Swinton and Michael Shannon, and the performances are very good. And I liked some of the songs, and like, it wasn't a bad movie to go out on at TIFF. But even though in the moment I was admiring the film, I admired its ambition, its originality, in the weeks that have now passed, it is one of my lesser films I saw during the week. I'll be curious to see how it does during award season. If it's completely ignored, maybe it comes up with a nomination here and there. I don't know. Like, The End could go in a lot of different directions. I have seen some enthusiasm for it, and you might like it more than I did. It's decent, not great. Number 14 is The Last Showgirl, which I'm doing a full review for my Patreon members. Go check that out. This was a delight. It's kind of a slight film overall. Like, you don't take a lot away from this one. It's 85 minutes long, and it just kind of flies by. It's got a unique array of characters. Pamela Anderson is the lead role. She's very good. It's definitely her best performance in a movie. You have Dave Bautista, you have Jamie Lee Curtis in a wild supporting role. And I like the sense of place in Las Vegas. The cinematography is nice. It's good, and I liked it while I was watching it, but kind of like with The End, weeks later, I'm not really thinking about The Last Showgirl. I feel like it needed to explore its themes a little deeper. It could have been another 20 to 30 minutes. It felt a little bit rushed to me, even though I did like a lot of elements in it, including that Pamela Anderson performance. She's very good in the movie. Number 13 is Hard Truths, written and directed by Mike Leigh. This was one of my must-sees at the festival because it's Mike Leigh reuniting with his Secrets and Lies star, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who gives a dynamite performance in this movie. I had some issues with the storytelling. Some of the things that happen in the second half, I didn't fully emotionally engage with. Like, as a film, it's fine, but it does have an excellent performance by Marianne Jean-Baptiste. Like, she goes really big in this. She plays this extremely volatile woman who doesn't like people that much and just goes off on so many, mostly workers, like when she's out and about at a furniture store, at the dentist. Like, it's a really big, memorable performance. I could see getting in at the Oscars in Best Actress. If that fifth slot is kind of a free-for-all and Marianne Jean-Baptiste gets in at BAFTA, I could see her surprising on Oscar nominations morning. She is very good in the film, and she is the reason to see it. Number 12 is Amelia Perez, which is going to be a huge Oscar contender in the months to come. I think that film can get into at least 5 to 7 categories. It's so original and daring, unlike any movie ever made. As I talked about in my review, my co-review really, with Ryan Castleman, I did have some issues with the film. I found the narrative kind of confusing at times. I felt like the amount of musical numbers should have been either more or less. It doesn't have a very good balance, I think, between the musical numbers and the dialogue scenes. And the ending is a little bit too dark, I feel like, for this movie. So I had some issues like with the screenplay, the narrative, but I was still taken aback by the originality of Amelia Perez, and especially those fantastic performances. In my review with Ryan, I said Carla Sofia Gascon and Zoe Saldana will probably get in at the Oscars, and you know what? 2 weeks later, I have come around a little bit in thinking that Selena Gomez might get into Best Supporting Actress, especially with Tilda Swinton going lead for Room Next Door. I feel like there is going to be room in Supporting Actress for 2 actors from Amelia Perez, and Selena Gomez getting in at the Emmys for Only Murders in the Building. She is having a moment right now. She has a few emotional scenes in Amelia Perez. Selena Gomez, she might get in, after all. Number 11 is Conclave, which, like Amelia Perez, is going to be a huge Oscar contender. I can see Conclave getting into picture and director and lead actor, maybe supporting actor, definitely adapted screenplay, some tech categories. Like, Academy members are really going to enjoy Conclave, even though I didn't love the movie, sadly. After a very strong opening, I thought it got pretty dull for a while, with lots of long scenes and dark rooms, people talking. It gets better in the second half. I was much more engaged later in the narrative. But yeah, I liked Conclave, didn't love it. It's not going to be in my top 10 of the year or even my second 10. I do still think it's very much worth seeing, especially for that magnificent lead performance by Ralph Fiennes. He is going to be in contention to win the Oscar for Best Actor. Number 10 is The Life of Chuck from Mike Flanagan, based on the novella by Stephen King. I thought it was a very nice movie. I admired that Mike Flanagan made a project that's not supposed to scare you for once, and he did a really good job. It's kind of like an anthology film of 3 stories that are connected. I walked out appreciating the movie. I very much loved the second half more than the first half. I did not think in any way, shape, or form this could be an Oscar contender, but it won the People's Choice Award at TIFF. And usually, when your movie wins that, you go on to get a Best Picture Oscar nomination. Your film typically does well in award season, so I will be curious to see, can The Life of Chuck be an Oscar nominee? I'm still not feeling it right now, but if the right distributor takes it on, it comes out in December, like, maybe it is a very good movie. There is a lot to like about it. Number 9 is I'm Still Here. This was the number 1 sleeper, I would say, I saw at TIFF. The movie I went into knowing almost nothing. I had seen it listed on one website that listed it as a must-see film that we should see at TIFF, and so I had a window in my schedule, and I thought, let's take a chance on this movie, the director of The Motorcycle Diaries and Central Station, two movies I adore. So I thought, I'm Still Here could be something special, and it is. What a fantastic lead performance by Fernanda Torres, the daughter of Fernanda Montenegro. And it's one of those performances, I feel like if enough people, enough awards voters see I'm Still Here, Fernanda Torres has a chance of getting in at BAFTA and maybe even the Oscars. I do think Best Actress at the Academy Awards is just so stacked right now. There's so many contenders at this moment. Fernanda Torres might fall through the cracks, but she is phenomenal in that movie. She broke my heart at the end. It's such a moving film that you should all check out. It's a true story, it's emotional, it's fascinating. Go find I'm Still Here, you will not be disappointed. Number 8 is Heretic, which was such a blast of a genre film. It's not super original, it's not doing anything we haven't seen in other movies, but what it's doing very well. And the big takeaway of Heretic, which I think is opening in theaters in November, is the Hugh Grant performance. He is so deliciously chilling in this movie as the villain. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it, if you know anything about it. It's basically 3 people in a house. That's about 95% of the movie, and it's very claustrophobic and darkly funny at times, and there is so much tension in this movie. It's the kind of film you want to take a big group of friends to and just laugh your asses off, scream. Heretic is a total thrill ride. It's one of my favorite genre movies of 2024, and that Hugh Grant performance is so magnificent, it would be an inspired Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Number 7 is The Room Next Door, starring Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton. I have to be honest, I enjoyed The Room Next Door more in the moment than I do like today. I feel like at a certain level, it really is just a showcase for Moore and Swinton to act together in various scenes. Like, the main storyline is very emotional and interesting, but Pedro Almodovar, he doesn't really do anything outside of the ordinary in the storytelling. It goes basically where you think it's going to. So that element in the weeks past have made me go a little bit down on The Room Next Door. But if you're a fan of these two actresses, like, it's such a pleasure to just watch them be together. Scene after scene of dialogue, especially Tilda Swinton, is phenomenal in this film. I was surprised to hear that she is going to campaign for lead actress, not supporting, because she would have been a slam dunk in supporting. It's that kind of performance, but she is in a lot of the movie, so lead actress, I think, is the right choice. I don't know if Swinton can make it, but it would be a very good Oscar nomination for this amazing actress. And then Julianne Moore, I love you, but I think outside of maybe Golden Globes, you're probably going to be sitting out another award season. Number 6 is We Live in Time, starring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, a movie that made me cry more than once, kind of like with Heretic, I would say. It's not doing anything we haven't seen before. It's a romance, there's a tragedy at the center of its story. It's sad, it's funny, very life-affirming. We Live in Time is not rewriting how to do a movie like this, but it does what it sets out to do extremely well. It's very moving. The performances are at a very high level. I like the non-linear editing structure to this film. I thought that was interesting. If you are a fan of Garfield and Pew, like, they make magic together in this movie. Number 5 is Saturday Night from director Jason Reitman, that tells of the 90 minutes before the very first live taping of SNL in 1975. This film just flies by. It is such a blast. What an amazing ensemble cast, led by the very appealing Gabriel LaBelle as Lorne Michaels. It's funny, it's dramatic, it keeps surprising you, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. So well made, so well acted. I can't wait to watch it again and again. Number 4 is The Wild Robot, which is one of my favorite animated feature films of the last decade. This movie blew my mind. I sat down thinking, oh, this'll be nice. This'll be a pleasant, like, DreamWorks animated movie about a robot and all her animal friends. I just didn't think it was going to be the monumental animation achievement it is. This movie made me cry multiple times. It's such a moving kind of mother-son story. It also has a lot of action in it, a lot of surprises in the narrative. It's just such a wonderful piece of family entertainment that everybody is going to adore. I do think The Wild Robot is going to win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. Number 3 is The Brutalist, a film you're going to be hearing about a lot the next few months, because this beautiful epic vision from director Brady Corbett is going to be a huge awards player. This thing's getting into Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Screenplay, and so on and so forth. The Brutalist I could see getting a minimum of 10 Oscar nominations. It reminded me of the kind of movies Hollywood used to make that we don't get very often these days. The fact that The Brutalist cost less than $10 million to produce, apparently? Like, that blows my mind. This looks like it cost at least 50 to 60 million to make. It is so impeccably crafted, so brilliantly acted by its cast, really well directed and shot. Like, this is going to go down as one of the signature films of 2024. Whenever you get a chance to see The Brutalist, take it. Number 2 is Baby Girl, starring Nicole Kidman. I feel like I might be an outlier on this one, ranking it as high as I am. Like, I've already seen some takes that are like, it's just good, or they're mixed about it. Like, Baby Girl is not going to work for everybody. It is kind of an uncomfortable movie at times, dealing with the sexuality in its narrative. I loved it. I loved everything about Baby Girl. I found it to be a bold, ferocious masterpiece with an all-timer performance by Nicole Kidman. This is the best she has been in a movie, I think, since Rabbit Hole 14 years ago. Like, she really goes for it in this. It was really exciting to see Kidman at the absolute top of her game in a story that is filled with surprises, that doesn't go where you think it's going to. I found the third act extremely satisfying. I like how it's not just filled with genre conventions. Writer-director Helena Rain goes against the cliches of a quote-unquote, like, erotic thriller. That's not what Baby Girl is. It's a fascinating, emotional, complex character piece that just delighted me from beginning to end. And that Kidman performance, just frickin' wow. She deserves an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. And finally, my number 1 choice, my favorite film I saw at the Toronto Film Festival, is probably going to go down as my favorite film of 2024, and that's Anora, written and directed by Sean Baker. I had been hearing amazing things about Anora since Cannes, where it won the Palme d'Or, and I knew, in all seriousness, like, I knew in the opening shots of Anora that I was going to love this movie that it was going to be in my top 10 list, I knew within seconds. There is such a confidence to the storytelling. The movie is extremely funny, so much funnier than I expected, but it also is very dark and thrilling and dramatic and filled with lots of emotional beats. The cinematography is amazing, the film editing, the score, all of the technicals of Anora are top-notch. The screenplay by Sean Baker is so daring and original and filled with surprises. You never really know where this narrative is headed, and that phenomenal cast led by Mikey Madison in the title role, this is a star. This is the kind of performance maybe we get 2 or 3 times a year, if that. I was so blown away by Mikey Madison in this movie. Right here, right now, I am telling you all, she is my choice to win the Best Actress Oscar. She is that good. What a truly groundbreaking, mesmerizing performance by Mikey Madison in Sean Baker's Anora. It is easily, I would say, my choice for the #1 film I saw at the Toronto Film Festival. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below which of these movies I talked about in this video are you most excited to check out in the weeks to come, and I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.